This may well be the last time I get to say this. Hey everybody, it's Darkling765. You've read the title, you know what's happening, that's right, I'm changing my username. This may or may not be a permanent change depending on how well I like the new username when I put it to use. So for the time being, I'm just trying it on like a new pair of pants at a Mark's or wherever you go to buy your pants. If you're not invested in what I have to say about my old username, then you can just skip to the time code you see on screen, or skip to the chapter called The New Username in the time bar to see what my new username is without all the preamble. But before you skip ahead, there's gonna be a couple little updates as well as a special bonus for you after the reveal, so if you're going to skip ahead, I'll see you there. I made the decision a little while ago that this was something that I wanted to try, and now I'm finally at the point where I can do it. To give some reference, the reason I didn't do it up until now is because I was making series CCs where I used my old username, and I didn't want to switch usernames halfway through. Specifically, I'm talking about the Pokemon Nuzlocke and the Minecraft Dark Core series. Oh, and for those paying attention, this was the change that I teased at the end of the video. I have not been treating this channel with the respect it deserves. In that video, I say I wanted to finish Pokemon before I make a big change, and this was that change, and that was the reason. So let's start that countdown to the reveal! Why did we start the countdown at 765 seconds? That's like 12 minutes. Before I get into the new username, let's talk about the history behind this username. This username has been with me for over half my life. About 3 years over half my life, in fact. There is a lot of history that comes along with something that's been with someone for that long, so let's get into it. Allow me to introduce you to what I like to call the Dark Timeline. Oh yeah. So let's go back to the very beginning, before I ever signed up to any website with this username. Where did this username come from? Well, when I was a kid, probably around late 2008 to early 2009, what was young little me into? Well, this was around the time I got my first extended exposure to the internet and to YouTube. And although I wasn't quite as into video games as I would eventually become at this point, there was a genre of YouTube videos that I was way into. That was, of course, bloopers. For those unfamiliar, bloopers is a type of video where you make a story, usually comedic, or just do skits using footage from a video game. That's the most reasonable way I could describe it because bloopers come in many forms. But anyway, one of the biggest key players in the bloopers game was none other than Mega Man 765. Yup, even back then I was biting other people's style. I never change. So when it came time to decide on my own username, I basically followed that guideline, a character I like followed by the numbers 765. And so, after that, I present to you the earliest instance of my username that I am aware of, showing provably that my username existed as far back as 2009. Okay, so a few notes. First of all, you'll notice there's only one R in Dark. The second didn't show up until much later. Second, I put spaces in it? Like, not just between Dark and Link, but also between Link and the numbers? Why? Why did I do that? I don't think I understood how usernames work. Anyway, apart from that, the only other instance of my username that I remember having was on a little website known as Justin TV. Yes, before Twitch was Twitch, it was part of a larger streaming website called Justin TV, which as far as I remember was pretty much just for streaming pirated content. Ah, that's the Justin I remember. Anyway, Justin was actually the earliest instance of me making internet content because I actually did a single stream of Portal on Justin TV. Unfortunately, that has been lost to time since, Justin TV doesn't exist anymore, but that was something that happened a long time ago. I don't know exactly when, so it's a good thing this timeline isn't labeled, so I can just put it vaguely in this general area and you can't argue with it. And so it was at this point that it was time for me to start creating more internet content, but not before something that I think is worth bringing up. Between 2009 and 2011, the year I actually made my channel, I had a lot of ideas for types of channels I could make. And one of those ideas was a second channel for some reason. Now, I only vaguely remember the details, but I do remember that one of my ideas was to make 2 different channels that both make similar content. The second channel was going to be called P2 Waffle because it's the internet in the late 2000s and I was a child. For that one, I was going to put on a persona and I would collaborate with myself, and it was supposed to be a big reveal that we were the same person the whole time. I was like 10. Anyway, after the couple years of consideration, I eventually decided not to do that, thank God, and I just made the gaming channel in 2011. Now when I first made this channel, naturally the username I wanted was taken. DarkLink765 was already being used. Not to be deterred by such a setback, I thought the best way to get around it was to duplicate a letter, and I think you all know which one I did. Yep, I added a second K. Because I'm an idiot. Of course, it only took me a day to realize that if I added a second R, it wouldn't be nearly as ambiguous how to pronounce it, so I quickly rectified my mistake. And finally, my username, the one that I've used all the way up until now, was born. DarkLink765 with 2 R's in dark, the way it should be. Now there's one more aspect of the history of my username I wanted to touch on, and it's the Clan Wars. So about the year 2012-ish, a friend of mine, who now goes by Aurora Borealis, who you might know as the co-host of Rising in Gaming, my slightly derelict collab channel, was into Call of Duty trickshotting clans. Exactly something you'd expect from a 12-year-old in 2012. That friend wanted to start up her own Call of Duty clan, and I was one of her few friends, and I already made YouTube content, so I was in, I guess. Only problem was I didn't play or even really like Call of Duty, so the idea evolved into a collab gaming channel where I would post Let's Play style content I wouldn't otherwise want to post on my main channel, and she would post the same as well as her Call of Duty videos. We intended to add more people to the clan, but no one ever really bothered. And we still called it a clan because that's what we were working with. With the existence of a clan, we also had clan names. The problem was that my friend was really bad at sticking with names, so the clan was renamed repeatedly. It started off as Central Scare, and I was Scare Dark Link. And then it became Dream, and I was Dream Dark Link. Later we had Ghost and a bunch of others that I don't really remember, but eventually we landed on one that stuck for longer than the rest, Wasp. The Wasp Gaming to be exact, and I was Wasp Dark Link. This continued for a while, but overall, the channels were all really failures, and all the videos we made for them have been lost to time. Eventually, the Wasp Gaming fell into disuse for a long time, as I was one of the primary content creators on there, and I was focusing more on my main channel at this point. After a while, my friend started up what was supposed to be her main channel, Rising in Gaming, but because I was the only person she knew who had the ability to record games, I showed up in every video because she was using my computer. Eventually, the decision was made to make Rising in Gaming a proper collab channel where, importantly, I got to use my actual username instead of a dumb clan name. Now, apart from the fact that I occasionally stream on Twitch, and I have a Twitter, and I had a Facebook page, which I have since closed down because I had no use for it, and I've appeared a couple times on my friends' channels, there isn't really anything else involving my username or my history on the internet that I think is important to this video. Everything else is pretty well documented on this channel. So, there you go. That is the Dark Timeline. Now let's have a look at that timer. Geez, seriously? There's so much time left. Okay, so let's get into the reasons why I decided to change my username. The seeds that led to me deciding to change my username have been around for a while. The earliest one I can think of is the fact that people don't really use numbers in their usernames anymore. Numbers in usernames was an old way to make sure you got a username you wanted, even if someone has used that username before. That isn't really a thing anymore, and in general, it's seen as kind of tacky. Now, I'm not usually one to care about what other people think of the way I present myself, so other people seeing the numbers as tacky isn't the issue. It's the fact that eventually I started to find it kind of tacky myself. Another reason was actually inspired by someone I follow on Twitter. See, they, like me, made their username based on a pre-existing property. Darklink is, in fact, an character from Zelda. I don't really want my channel and my content to be associated with an established property. This channel is meant to be about me and the types of things that I want to create, and I feel that my username being inherently linked to a brand obscures that intention. On top of not wanting to be directly associated with someone else's intellectual property, I don't even feel that strongly about said intellectual property anymore. When I was a kid, I thought Dark Link was cool, but nowadays, I mean, I still think he's cool, but I definitely don't really have any strong feelings about him anymore. Basically, I want something that is more unique and not tied to anything else. I want something that is mine and only mine. And the final reason that I want to change my username is the fact that my old username is not at all indicative of the kind of person I am or the kind of content I make. I mean, it's a name based on Zelda, but my content isn't exclusively Zelda or even Nintendo related. Not to mention that, in principle, it's one of the edgiest concepts for a character, but I wouldn't say my content is trying to push any boundaries. It doesn't really capture me or my videos in any way. Granted, a username doesn't have to do that, and as a bit of a spoiler for my new username, it doesn't exactly do an incredible job at doing that either, but it's much more personable to me than my old username. So those are the reasons I wanted to change my username in the first place, but it doesn't explain the logic as to what my username is going to be. So there is a bit of logic as to what the new username is going to be. First of all, there is a big elephant in the room I have to address for all of the people in the audience who happen to be my online friends who have to this point only known me by my username. Most people online call me Dark. It's become as much a part of my online identity as my actual name is to my real life identity, and I can't justify getting rid of it. It's just too important. Beyond that, after saying my old username so many times for so many videos, I feel a sort of attachment to, for lack of a better description, the mouthfeel of it. There's just something about saying, "Hey everybody, it's Darkling765, that's just fun to say. Hey look, I said it again. So when I change my username, I want to have something that captures the fun that is saying the username. And just to kind of reiterate the sentiments of the previous section, I also want a username that doesn't have numbers in it, isn't tied to the existence of another property, one that somehow gives a feel for the content I create, and one that has some form of personal connection to myself. All of these criteria will be put into consideration as I now start to build. So here we go. As I mentioned before, I would prefer to keep Dark as part of the username since it's a strong part of my online identity, so that'll stay the same. Now, in order to keep a username that has the same mouthfeel as my old one, while not being tied to a pre-existing property, I figured why don't I just change it to another word that isn't tied to a property but is similar. For this, I only had to change one letter. Yeah, if you were expecting a massive change in the username, prepare to be disappointed. This is only a modification of what I had before. So I've gone from Dark Link, a character I don't have a strong connection with anymore while being part of a property that already exists, to Dark Ling, something that isn't tied to a property and has the same mouthfeel as the first part of the old username. Now what to do with those pesky numbers? I can't just get rid of them and be left with Darkling, because not only does it not feel the same to say as my old username, which was much longer, it also just leaves me with something that on its own is pretty edgy and is not at all personal to myself or my content. So I'd better replace the numbers with something to fix that. I tried a few things. One notable example being Darkling Salmon, since it was sort of an in-joke I had with myself where I would call myself Darkling Salmon instead of Darkling765. But no word really captured what I was going for quite like the one I landed on. And looking at the countdown... okay, hold on, oh god, I really didn't plan ahead. Just pretend the countdown just ran out, okay? God, this was a stupid idea. Welcome back, people who skipped ahead. It's now time to reveal what I ended up going with for my new username. My new username is... Darkling Muffin! And before anyone says it, yes, I really did just make a big deal out of changing one letter and replacing the numbers with a word. But why muffin? Well, muffin is actually a word that has quite a bit of meaning to me. I don't want to get too deep into the details of it, but if you watched Minecraft Dark Core and you heard my sister Alex call me Muffin...
Muffin, where are you with the food?
It has to do with that. It's a nickname that has a very special place in my heart, and it's a part of my personal history, and I feel it's very fitting to make that a part of my online identity, since my intention has always been to make my online identity an extension of my real-life identity. So beyond that, how does it relate to me and my content? Well, I think there's a sort of goofy juxtaposition between the serious and edgy concept of Darklings and the pleasant baked good of the muffin. I think it's silly, and it kinda captures my less than serious disposition. One thing someone might complain about is how it takes longer to type than my old username, but how many times do you type someone's username in full? Most of the time people just call me Dark anyway, and you can still do that. It'll probably only be an issue if you're like searching for my videos, and I think you can muster through it. As for how much fun it is to say, Darkling Muffin is pretty fun to say. Now it's time to move on to the special surprise I had planned for the end of this video, as well as an update on how I'm going to approach my content moving forward. That's better. So, here I am. This is real. This is me. I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. Hi. I'm not used to appearing on camera, so if this is extremely awkward, it's because of that, and not because I'm this awkward normally. So you might be wondering if you're some of the people who would watch this video who have actually seen me somewhat recently, you might be wondering where the heck all this came from, and if you watch that walk-in shot, you're probably wondering where the heck it all went. And it's all back here. I wear a ponytail now. It's kind of become part of my iconic look. At some point, a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago actually, I stopped getting haircuts because at that point I was in a bit of a financial struggle. So like cut out, haircuts as a non-essential, and eventually my hair just got so long I was like, God, I gotta start doing something with my hair, And I was like, I could put it in a ponytail, and I did it, and I really liked the way that it looked. And obviously my hair has grown since I took the reference image that eventually spawned the Minecraft Darkcore character portrait, which I'm going to put up on screen. But if you look closely, if I kind of replicate it, it's kind of the same thing. It's similar. It's not quite exact, obviously. This is what people do during face reveals, right? They just talk about their appearance, right? They just talk about what they look like. If you can't tell, this part's unscripted, largely because I didn't feel like writing a script. So it's kind of funny that, I've talked about, my bad ideas for this channel over the years. One of those was how I originally planned to do a face reveal, because, I wasn't planning, I was planning to make a sort of big spectacle out of the face reveal. One of those things being, I originally wanted to do a YouTube review show where I would review, games like, Peanut Butter Gamer, The Completionist, people like that. Eventually, I decided that was a terrible idea, but that series was originally going to be the big face reveal, and I definitely had other ideas once I sort of decided not to do that, of how I would do the face reveal, but I can't for the life of me remember any of them. But yeah, that was what I was originally planning on doing for the face reveal, and instead it's just going to be at the end of this video. I don't know if is this climactic? Is this climactic enough for you? Is this climactic enough for you? All right. This video is going great already. And speaking of this video going great, this video was really hard for me to make. This video was hard to make in general, like it was hard to edit through, and the reason for that was it's really hard for me to come up with sort of visual illustrations. I bumped my notes here. It's really hard to come up with a visual illustration of everything that I'm saying when I'm not really talking about anything in particular. So as you may have noticed in this video, I used just a lot of stock footage, and it was literally like the first bit of stock footage that like I found that like worked with what I was saying. And a lot of it I actually really liked, like the guy who's like thinking, he's like and then he's like gets all excited, he's like, yeah, that I love that stock footage. It's so funny to me. Hi, it's me from the future. I swear we'll get to the updates in a second, but I had to interject here because I realized that I forgot to talk about something that I really wanted to talk about in this video, and I would be remiss to bring it up in a video all about my username. It actually goes back to when I was in junior high school. I actually took a woodshop class, and I made something. And that thing is this thing. So it's a little worse for wear. The glue on one of the letters has completely fallen off, but here it is. This is a thing that I made in woodshop class. I cut these pieces out using a bandsaw, and I sanded them using a belt sander, and the sanding job is absolutely terrible. I'm not sure how good the focus is on my camera, but the edges are super, super sharp, not very well sanded, and it's actually kind of funny, the eye here, because it's so small, when I was sanding it with a belt sander, it just kept getting eaten by the belt sander, and every time I feared for my life. It was the most terrifying thing ever. You're just putting your hand up real close to it, and then it just clunk, and it makes a loud clunking sound. It's horrifying. It's scary. Up here, you can see that the 5 has a bunch of glue on the outside of it. That's because when I originally did it, I glued it backwards, because I'm an idiot. But yeah, this is something that I created, and I mean, you can see why I wanted to bring it up in a video all about my username, because come on, it's my username. But the real big takeaway is that now I have something to give to people when I win an argument. Alright, now I'm gonna throw it back to past me with those updates. Okay, so now with all that out of the way, it's finally time to talk about the updates for this channel that I'm going to start implementing. So obviously this username, I'm going to be changing it. I'm going to be doing that over the course of the next maybe week or so. So I'm not going to do it right away. It's going to be, you know, in a week or, you know, maybe 2 weeks. And for those of you who follow me on Twitch, you might know of my my good boy, Barklink765. Yes, I will be changing Barklink765 to Barkling Muffin as well, because I'm just all about that branding, baby. Another change I'm going to be making is that you may have noticed, if you're super attentive, that in the playlist section of my videos, I've listed my first 2 Let's Plays as the pre-quality Let's Plays. That was because that was sort of before I knew how to make good videos, and so those videos suck a whole lot. And I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile all of my old videos, pretty much every video before the me versus Nick Smash 4 Smashtage, because that was sort of the first video that I look back at and I'm like, yes, I'm proud of this video. Every video before that, I'm going to compile into a playlist, and then I'm going to unlist them, because I don't really want them to be on my, you know, main YouTube page. I don't want people to find them by searching, because they suck. They suck really bad. And the reason I'm unlisting them and not privating them is because I do want people to still be able to go back and see them, but also I don't condone that. So don't watch those videos. They're really bad. I made them when I was 12. And going forward, now that I've changed my username, I'm gonna do what I said in the video that I mentioned earlier, the video where I'm like, I'm not treating this channel with the respect it deserves, whatever. I've finished the series that I said I want to finish in that video, and now I'm ready to move on to the content that I want to produce, which is actually good Let's Play content that I have been wanting to make for so long. My hair is getting in my face constantly. That's the one downside to having long hair. I'm gonna start making Let's Plays the way that I've always wanted to, which is decently well researched, trying to capture sort of the magic of what it's like to play a game, and really displaying on full blast my love of video games. I'm not sure exactly when that Let's Play is gonna come out, but it will be soon, TM. I swear. Anyway, that's all I really had to say, so before I finish this off, I just want to give a solemn goodbye to my old username, Darklink765. I almost said Barklink765, but I guess I'm saying goodbye to Barklink765 as well. Even though it does have a special place in my heart, it was time to finally move on from it, and I mean, you know all the reasons. You watched the old video, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you were one of the people who skipped ahead. I forgot to account for that. But yeah, I just wanted to say a very heartfelt goodbye to Darklink765. Sad to see you go, but I'm glad that you were with me for so long. So with that out of the way, I will now, for the first time, introduce myself the way that I will be referring to myself for the foreseeable future. Hey everybody, it's Darkling Muffin! And also, goodbye everybody, it's Darkling Muffin. I am now turning off the video because I have to finish this video at some point. So, goodbye! That was a great way to end it, wasn't it?